Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. I'm just playing a little bit of a shorter game here today. It's Destruction, and it's a public lobby, so I'm playing with Alfarius, Coparius, Matler98, none of whom I knew before this, and I figured, you know what, let's just sit back, relax, play some Baltic Mechanized Destruction 2v2 on, of course, Gunboat Diplomacy, a map that hasn't featured on this channel in nearly a year. I had to look really far back to find that. And I think at the time it wasn't even a destruction game, it was just conquest on this. Now, this game is, yeah, it's going to be interesting. As you can already see from my opponent's deployments here, Alfarius double quad stack of VAB T2013s, triple stack of VBL Mistrals. We are well and truly into destruction gaming here, which, you know, it is unique, if nothing else. Now, when I saw those VABs going down this highway, I expected an Alano rush. And so I am not really responding quickly enough here to those VABs. I figured, okay, well there's a lot of VABs, but I have two big tanks here, I have the Pion as well. You know what, maybe we can go up there and just take a look, and this was a horrible plan. So yeah, been a little while since I played Destruction, and I did not realize that they were faster moto from there than I am mech from, you know, right here. It's pretty far forward in the zone, it's really not all that far to get up to that section of town, and that was a quad stack of spikes. I say was because we did get one of them, but yeah, this is brutal, taking a bit of a mauling here, and you know, for all of that Brigadier General shiny rank right there, sometimes realizing that, yeah, there are other skills to be mastered and maps to be learned, it's fun, it's a welcome break. So, we have double roll in 3 here from Alfarius, and my ally is just doing a very nice job of securing Anna, Dimitri, things like that. Now, this sort of composition is a little bit interesting. Rozvedka, T72B, I don't actually hate that. Double Conquers M is pretty nice. Nothing to block here. That's why sometimes when I do still play on this map, I'll actually push through this section. Mixed results. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, we are down a lot of points. And remember, in this, well, in this game mode, your income's based off the zones that you cap. So we've actually, interestingly, both gone for capping the +4s, Cheriton and Elena, and this is something where I think if my opponent had had more of a conquest-style mindset, he could have really punished me for this. I mean, look, there's Grom, there's my CV, and there's nothing in between. I have two paves back here, an MI2 row. I get some vision, but, you know, everything's already unloaded. From my opponent's perspective, he's achieved the goal that he set out to do. He got here, he has enough units here to, you know, prevent a total cap of this, probably intends to counter cap it later, and or push across the bridge. And so this is a very non-standard thing. Like every single conquest player that I've played in ranked above maybe Sergeant Major would, after having that opener, probably just not stop, or at least they'd push up a little bit, right? Like you'd set your sights on the next section, which right here, if that had come through, there's nothing I really could have done about it. But let's take a quick peek here at the Blue 4 players' deployments. We have Puffs, we have Jaguar A's, we have a CV from Coparius, already one going into center. They're quicker on capping than we are because, of course, they want the deployment points that come with it, right? They want the income, everything like that. And if we take a look generally at how this is done, so there's a Scandi player, LHV, quad stacks, double right here. These players, it does look like they were pretty new. I joined the lobby last, I believe. And Coparius has since joined my Discord server, so always nice to interact with new people there, and I think he was actually helping some of the knights, some of the more experienced players, for some advice, and I hope that that goes a long way. But moving back into our section of this, I was pretty much having to rely on, okay, well, if they do push, which I didn't really expect, I'm gonna have to defend with minimal tools. Double VBL Mistral here, moving up. I did not respond in time, and so lose even more points, but at least we do get a nice 55-point return, and I've missed seeing those little blue numbers pop up when you get a kill on something. It's actually quite, I don't know, not cathartic. It's not, well, satisfying, I suppose, is a nice way to put it. So I have a CV headed up here doing my part. I always hate it when I used to play Destruction a lot more, whenever people would be like, hey, you just cap both these zones. Yep, so we're going to do our part there, we're going to spend our points to get Anna, and then we'll be back on even footing. But that means that these guys are up now, a little bit less of a gap. Matler98 has gotten some nice pickups, and I do believe I killed a Jaguar A as well. But we'll be back up to comparable income. But keep in mind that means there's more of a points disparity on the board than there appears right now. Now, the Teleker 66 is an interesting piece. Not a lot of ammunition, but the 6HE has a wider splash than standard mortars, because it is, of course, technically speaking, not a mortar, even though it very much looks like one, and it's still the Teleker, which is, of course, the standard Baltic that you'll see. I like this thing, I really do. I don't take it all the time. Like, if I was in a tournament, I probably wouldn't take this deck. Baltic Mechanized is an interesting choice, to say the least, but it has its strengths, and I firmly believe that the Teleker 66 is one of them. So if you haven't tried it out ever, well, do go ahead and give that a shot, because it really can be quite a hassle to deal with. Now, of course, I'm targeting the wrong town, as we just saw the ATGM Milan F3s had moved, and they're back over here. So a little bit lazy on my part there not to recognize that retarget and get shooting on an accurate target here. But we're going to get unloaded there and wait, because this is destruction, and neither team really wants to push. There's no real advantage to it, especially when there's really nice pickups off these Milan F3s, just killing anything and everything that comes down here. So my opponent, my teammate here is feeding just a little bit. Anything that comes close is going to get doinked by 3 ATGMs. I mean, what other game mode will you see that much stacking? Because, like, if Heavy Arty comes in, it's going to kill everything in there anyway, and you may as well try and get payoff before that. So people in this mode tend to take decks that are very different from Conquest sort of min-maxed stuff for pushing and things like that. So we have Alvarius coming in here with VAB T2013s, and I just want to show you guys this because, back when I was newer, or when I played with some newer players right now, they won't necessarily understand why something like this doesn't work out as well as they might have expected. So let's see. We get the first kill with the CC. They were able to attack from, of course, hidden status here. We get the second one, and let's take a look. This is a 50% accuracy, relatively short range rocket, the Raika, but it does have 18 AP power, and we're shooting it against VABs that haven't stopped moving, and well, they have 1 armor all around anyway, so we're going to do the listed damage on the card. What that means is that we're going to deal 10 points, we're going to kill the vehicle, we're going to deal 8 points through to Legion 90, and of course they have popped out at 8, and once they do, we can actually engage them with our primary, the Swami KP as well. They're not in cover, at least, well, they weren't, now this one is, and they're going to take a lot of damage really, really quickly. So these Legion 90 squads, these really expensive, of course really high-performing 25-point French infantry, are going to be taken out way quicker than they otherwise would have been, and with that, 20 points of CC has gotten me very much a very nice return, actually popping us up to nearly even. So because this is destruction, because I do have on my mind the relative income, one of the first things I wanted to do was actually cap. So this might seem a little bit weird, this is more of a construction play, but sorry, geez, construction, conquest and destruction mishmashed together. More of a conquest play to try and countercap the zone, but I figured, you know what? At the time I bought this, we were still a little bit down on trading. I figured, why not try to get back at them that way? Reduce their income, allow ourselves to build up a little bit more over time, and rely on the slower pace of most destruction games to give us the time to do that. I didn't really expect them to then cross the river, but that's okay. This is what we have Commandosi for in double MI24D, and there's only a couple of surviving Legion, so I've moved my Grom away. I didn't want that engaging, and what's interesting is that Alfarius here is not really moving up too much. So Legion 90 are there. I guess they might be preparing to defend against whatever I'm setting down here, but ordinarily if it were me, I'd be town hopping back through here, trying to get around that way. Now, another interesting thing about this game as the Commandosi are going up is that my teammate actually snuck some Razvedka all the way through. The BTR-70 is amphibious, and this is one of the few maps where it really can make a difference to have those sorts of amphibious units. I've seen some really cool sort of amphibious beachheads before where you go, I mean, the normal thing, if you're not amphibious, you have to go right across here, right? Well, okay, that's one route, but if you have a bunch of amphibious infantry, you can smoke off your opponent's fire support here, then just go across the river, and it's kind of hilarious. It's kind of nice. I like it. I think it's it's a very dynamic map, and I wish more people played on it more often, especially in Conquest. I think there's a lot of interesting tactics here, right? Because how do you keep either Cheriton or Elena from being countercapped? I mean, Cheriton, I think, is a little bit red favored, because there's just 2 different zones, so you at least have that distance, right? But here, if anyone's going to drive up to there with a CV, I think they're probably just waiting for it to get wrecked. But that's very much not the case on our side of the river in Sheraton, where you have a bit more of an opportunity to do that. Now, I haven't taken advantage of that. I've just gone right here, and if people shelled it or bombed it, I've been B5'd in that town more times than I can count, and that certainly is unpleasant. But, you know, it doesn't seem to be something that's happening yet. Now, I will spare you guys all the sort of replay review-esque criticism of buys and things like that, and let's just watch some brutal destruction carnage, because it is on its way, and was very much enjoyable at the time. Now, one thing to notice, there are still more and more and more vehicles and tanks dying on this section, and I really do advise, if you're playing on this map, don't put too much in the section of woods. It seems really nice, but I think best to use it as a staging ground if you do have those amphibious units. And by the way, BTRDs, yeah, they're amphibious too. It's actually kind of interesting. I wonder if my ally here tuned his deck to it, because for all I know, he might have been the lobby host. I don't think so. I think Alfarius and Coperius, I think they know each other and play together, and I think they hosted the lobby. But, you know, who am I to know the mysterious ways of destruction? Now we have more Vabs. We have probably just a ton more Vabs from Alfarius here. I think they're unloaded. I think they were the ones from over here earlier. There's a Fennec Toad 2, a Gazelle Canon, a Roland 3, and on this side I have just double Commandosi. I have a Grom, I have a Promet, I have Wallace and Cromet, no. 2 Mi-24Ds, and I'm keeping well far away from the front. That Roland 3 was sitting there spotted, and I figured there's no way it's going to stay there, but you know, it never moved. So we're just going to take the Telector 66s, see if we can pick up a kill. Doesn't really work out, but you don't necessarily always even need to kill your opponent's anti-air if you can stun it, panic it, drop that accuracy down to where the thing is functionally useless. I mean, the single Roland 3 has 2 shots. If each one has base 30%, well, not base 30%, but 30% after status effects, then that has to fight ECM. Very little chance of getting double tapped here. So Puff, MiG-29-913S, is coming in taking 1 shot, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't click on it until I had a chance to come back toward my end. I didn't want to fly over a destruction style anti-air net that could be any semblance of size here, so unfortunately not able to get the kill because I was a little bit cagey, but better cagey and repaired and rearmed soon than dead. Especially here where kills do make the difference, and we're well within about 15 points, 825 to 840, and Alfarius with 810 here. So Coperius, I think, has mostly just been chilling. We haven't seen a ton of unit buys here from Coperius. If we take a look, there's the TOW 2s, there's iHawk, and this is what most of his money has been spent on. He was, of course, playing Scandinavia, and yeah, that's all max veterancy infantry in 5-point boxes. Now, another interesting thing I just want to point out from Alfarius here, quad stacked 110-point artillery, 7 HE. This is not standard, and we're going to take a look at what it's targeting later on, just because, you know, I noticed that in the replay, and I was sitting there going, holy shit, right? Because it did strike a couple of my units, and I was sitting there wondering, how in the heck did that have the effect that it did? Yeah, okay, that's why. I thought because of the number of shells he was using mortars, and then I saw the size of the explosion, like, no, that's not a mortar. That is going to make me much more sad than just a mortar. Now, 2 Gazelle Celtics, of course, very fragile helicopters here, only 4 strength, and a Grom can take that out with 1 hit each. 140 points right there, and very nice satisfying floating numbers, which is, of course, why a lot of people do play Destruction. MiG-29-913S, and yeah, I mean, jeez, it's been so long since I've done a Destruction replay, I don't even know how to do it properly anymore. Now, this was kind of cool. Matler 98 attacked in the mid-game, which is interesting. I haven't really seen that from many Destruction players in a while. It could be he plays Conquest as well, but unranked, so at least doesn't commonly play in ranked matches, and I think he really wanted us to make up for my initial mistake there, so nice to see that sort of thing. Then, of course, we have, what, 4, 8, 12, 16 of these boxes, each one of them carrying Live Garden 85, so 30 points per box, 120 points per quad stack. That is going to be, let's see, 480 points of infantry, fast moved, right into the maw of Reskazin-Korima and Commandosi. Now, the Reskazin-Korima would ordinarily be a fine choice to kill anything that's just crossing the bridge, because of course my Commandosi's RPGs can't reach that far, but yeah, there's just too many numbers, holy cow. And so we take this engagement, like a good and proper conquest player would, which is through positioning rather than just sheer brutal numbers. So if you watch what's happening here, the BMP2s coming back around, I'm trying to get them to the open highway, because from this highway I can shoot at boxes, I can shoot at infantry that are left out in the open, and then secondarily, my Commandosi right now are firing their tertiary, but the Panzerjäger are firing their Apolos, and I was watching that happen because this is how we get rid of the boxes preferentially, and the Commandosi can deal damage right-clicking on the infantry in the open instead of the ones in the buildings to quickly kill them before they can get into something that gives them damage reduction. BMP2s firing in, and that is one heck of a cost-effective engagement, not to mention that as soon as those boxes started coming in, we start firing with the Teleker 66, 3 of them now instead of just 2. That 6 HE is going to go a very, very, very long way. And just like that, we are up by nearly 600 points. Yeah, 600 points and counting here as the game does reach 35-ish minutes remaining. Mi-24W as well. Bit of a panic buy, but I had extra points, and one of the things about destruction is where do you spend your extra points? Because you can build them all up in one location, they're just going to get walloped by, you know, quad stacks of 110-point howitzers, right? It's just that sort of thing. So my ally here has pushed across the river. I did want to support him, so we're going to have some infantry coming up and some Su-57-2s just to fend off pesky things like Fennec Toes. I don't love the anti-air in this deck. Most of it relies on strategic placement of the Grom and Promet. Now I do really like the Promet. I think of it basically like a Skrejet. I think it is a stat clone of the Skrejet, but I could be wrong about that, so don't quote me on that while we're not staring at the armory. Check it out for yourself, but it is very, very effective against helicopters, usually less so with just one, but when you have 2 of them, I mean, it becomes a weird buy. I don't like to double stack Groms, and that becomes reasonably expensive. You know, 35 points for the Promet and Grom, and so 70 points for double stack. It's not crazy expensive, but it's not nothing either. Now, the charioteers just going across, this sort of thing is feeding points in destruction, but it's also probing and just trying to figure out, well, is there anything here at all? And really, the Fennec 2's missiles there, I don't mind that as much as them being used for something a bit more pricey. So this was a bit of a blind rush. I was just letting destruction roll right through me here, and we have Alfarius with Panthers, double stacked Commander Marine. Now, oh geez, it's so hard not to do this these days, but yeah, this just hurt to watch, honestly, because yeah, the Panthers are very combat effective, but they're also, I mean, they're expensive, they're relatively fragile. Frankly, it's a miracle they were able to sit down here at all and unload their infantry. Yeah, he killed a Promet with 440 points worth of artillery. I was just, I mean, at the time I was sitting there going, what the heck is this? And then later on I was sitting there going, oh, okay, that's what they got. You know, I'm not sure I'd call that return on investment, but whatever scoots your canoe, my friend. And, yeah, I mean, wow. Quad stacking, I don't believe is a good thing, even in destruction. It just has too many flaws, too many drawbacks. Now, we did actually mortar to death, well, Teleker 66, so technically howitzer to death, one of those Panthers, and with that, Alfarius will surrender, and we're going to have a surrender not too long from now from Kopirius as well. I just want to show you what he's dealing with now with all of these points on the ground. Finally finding those Rezavetka, who, strangely enough, will die to, I'm pretty sure they'll die to double Man-Pad's team, but yeah, this is not really a recoverable situation, just looking at it. Cheriton is red, Elena is half red, and these guys are all, of course, worse infantry than the ones that preceded them. Up-vetted LHV, which you don't see very often, but, I mean, I guess he was playing Scandi Mech then, not just Scandi on-spec. Personal pet favorite deck of mine, and I think very much played differently from how you guys have seen me play it on the channel, but, you know, if I can sway Kopirius, who again has joined the Discord, over to the evil and mysterious ways of Conquest 1v1, then maybe we'll see some different buying priorities and unit control as time goes on. So I hope to play with these guys again. It was fun. It was, you know, it was a chuckle. It was like, what in the heck was happening in that opener? And then we came back, we had that clutch moment dealing with 460 points of artillery, and the final tally is going to be 1525 kills, 545 losses for me. Team going positive by about 1200 points, and that will wrap my first destruction game in a year. Holy cow. I just, you know, honestly, variety is good. And as much as destruction players will say, oh, conquest players, they like to play the boring way, or conquest players will say, oh, destruction players like to play the boring way. Mix it up a little, give it a try, see if it's enjoyable, and we'll catch you guys again real soon.